All right, everybody, welcome to episode 10 of the Tide Hoops History Summer Podcast Series. We are going to wrap things up for the summer as football season is right around the corner, but there is no better way for us to wrap up our summer podcast than the person sitting to my right, former Alabama men's basketball legend, Ennis Whatley. Ennis happens to be in town, and I also want to thank the good people here at the Hampton Inn here at 600 Harper Lee Drive. They let us do this podcast in person. Enos, welcome back to Tuscaloosa.
Thanks so much, Mike. It's good to always come back home. You know, I'm an Alabama guy, and always good to come and be back home, sweet home, Alabama.
So I really appreciate you taking time to come meet me. I know we had a couple of conversations on the phone. I know you've been traveling a lot, so I think you were overseas, and then you were in Las Vegas, then you were in Atlanta, then you came here. So what all have you been doing these last 3 weeks? Sounds like a whirlwind.
Well, I've just been a little everywhere. Visited my family, my grandbabies in Italy.
Oh.
Came back from Italy, went home to Maryland. Came back from Maryland, and went out to Las Vegas Summer Leagues in Las Vegas with the NBA.
Now, where you call home right now is Maryland, right?
Yes, I live in Howard County, Maryland.
Okay.
I've been living there for over probably 30 plus years since I played with the Washington Bullets.
Now, the trip today to Tuscaloosa, you told me earlier that you actually had a chance to talk to Coach Oates. What'd you guys talk about? Anything fun?
Yeah, well, it wasn't a whole lot of conversation. They was having basketball camp there, and
Right.
I just wanted to stop by and just go by and see the old Coliseum where I played at, and I got a chance to shake his hand and just tell him congratulations for getting the breakthrough and making it to the Final Four.
So, besides today, when was the last time you've been able to actually be inside Coleman Coliseum? When was the last time you came back for a reunion or something like that?
Well, we came back for the celebration of when we we ended up beating Kentucky for the 32-game winning streak. We broke their 32-game winning streak. So we all the former players in my year came back, and Coach Sanderson, we was able to come back. Probably been about close to about maybe a year and a half.
Oh, okay. So okay, good. Not too long ago. Okay. All right. So for all the younger generation, and we have a great new, robust, young generation of Alabama basketball fans. But I'm going to tell you folks, you're looking at one of the greatest point guards that ever played at the University of Alabama. And for those that never got to see him in person, you missed a lot. I was very fortunate, as I told you, Enos, earlier. I first started watching Alabama basketball your freshman year, 81, 82. I talked to Coach Sanderson. He even asked me about, hey, why do you like Alabama basketball so much? And I had mentioned that, for some reason, I just gravitated toward that team. You, to me, were one of the top players. I know you were a freshman, so I can't tell you how much of a thrill it is for me to finally meet you in person and talk to you. So for those, to let you know, Enos played his freshman year in 1981 and 82. I assume a very highly recruited battle for you coming out of Phillips High School in Birmingham. Who were some other contenders for your services beside Alabama as a high school recruit?
Oh my God! I mean, so many of them. Back then I was considered as one of the nation's number one point guard at the time. Me and so many Sam Benson, Eric Turner, myself. So I got recruited probably all the schools that was out there trying to recruit at the time. But I used to always kind of try to shy away from it because I knew I could only go to one school. But I probably had recruitment letters and different things from probably maybe half of the whole college network trying to recruit me to get me to come to school. Back then, you can only get 6 visits. So,
okay.
I took my visits and everything before I made my decision.
Ooh, well, besides Alabama, who were the other 5? Do you remember?
I didn't get to 5.
Oh, okay. You didn't. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't get to 5, but I visited San Diego State.
Really?
Smokey Gaines.
Okay.
God bless his soul. He's passed, but I ended up visiting San Diego State. I visited the University of Florida.
Okay.
Of course, Auburn was down the street. So, I just made sure I stayed and took a visit, home too before I signed.
All right. So we were joking a little bit earlier off camera. So Coach Sanderson always says that, let me do my Coach Sanderson imitation. If I were Coach Sanderson, hey, I would probably say that Ennis Whatley sure was a booger bear to recruit. He was out of his cotton picking mind. So what Coach has always said that he came on a recruiting visit to see you, and he said that you weren't there, and he said he couldn't understand it. Is that really true? What happened on that? What happened on that first visit?
Well, on that first visit, I just wanted to play a game on him.
Okay. So you were all
I
right.
wanted to see how bad he wanted me and everything. But I actually, when he got there, I was running a little late coming back, and he never failed to let me know that I was not there on time when he was coming to recruit me and to get me to sign at the University of Alabama.
Okay, well, he laughs and he likes to say that, and I know he's probably tried to embarrass you on the air too with the same story. All right, so in the end, what was it that really, again, you were a home state player, the state of Alabama, and Alabama's a state school. But again, what was the difference? Why Alabama?
Well, I chose Alabama because in my heart, I'm a true Alabama boy. All over the world, that's what I'm known by. It's the state of Alabama. So one thing about back then in the early '80s, being from Birmingham, it was like a pipeline. All the greats before me, Reginald King, Robert Scott, T.R. Dunn, so many great Leon Douglas, so many great guys had played at the University of Alabama before me. Wendell Hudson, of course. It wasn't a hard decision to make because I wanted to stay home, and in my heart, I'm from Alabama, from Birmingham specifically, and I knew I wanted to stay close. But we just always kept the great talent in the state, and Birmingham especially, but the state of Alabama, I think, probably one of the most talented states, around. We had some very great and good players.
So did you make Coach Sanderson sweat just a little bit? You make him think that maybe you might be going to Auburn, maybe you might be going to San Diego State?
Well, everyone always say it's good to take the visits,
right?
But I just wanted him to sweat on that day because. Everybody know Will have his way of getting his jokes to you. He always joking kid. He's a great guy. But I just wanted to make him sweat on that day. In my heart, I kind of knew what I wanted to do, but I just wanted to make him sweat.
Okay, I understand. And I agree with you. If when I look back at the '70s and the '80s, the amount of talent that was homegrown in this state of Alabama, from North Alabama to South Alabama, I don't think we'll ever see a run like that in a long time, because you were right. There's been some phenomenal talent that came through during that period, and you were one of them. I mean, right up there. Again, Leon Douglas was from Colbert County, but you had all the great Birmingham. Did you play in the Birmingham Summer League?
I did. I grew up right there in Birmingham, in Fountain Heights. So the Summer League was back then. Once it got started, man, it was incredible. It was an incredible league. But I just wanted to say, back in my senior year, we had maybe 13 D1 players to sign a D1 scholarship, and that's why the recruiting was so fierce, and it got tough at times. But we had a lot of D1 players in just my year, 1981.
If I remember, there was a period there in the early '80s, that Birmingham Summer League. You had top high school talent, you had top college talent, and you had some of the first-year NBA players come in there. And I used to hear stories about all those great games when they would be out there. It was just a mix of so many different good players out there. All right, so let me go into your freshman season here in 1981-82, because there's a lot of good things to talk about. You averaged 12.1 points a game, 5.74 assists, and 2.5 rebounds as a freshman in the starting lineup. I'm sure that probably was hard for Coach to put a freshman in there at point guard, but he did. 24-7, 12-6 in the SEC. But obviously, one of the biggest accomplishments that I remember was when you guys went into Lexington and you won the SEC tournament in Rupp Arena. Talk to me about those 3 games, because you beat Georgia, you beat Tennessee, and then you had the big game with Kentucky. What was the mindset of the team going into that SEC tournament, knowing it's there in Lexington?
Well, I think we end up getting on a roll. One thing you want to happen, just like Alabama getting to the Final Four this year, is that you want to be playing your best basketball at the right time. When we came into the SEC tournament, we ended up getting on the roll and just really, winning the game and got hot at the right time. So it was pretty good.
What magic did Coach have when it came to the SEC tournament? Because, throughout his career, he won 5 SEC tournaments. He played for the championship 9 out of 12 years. That's just pretty remarkable that he had such success. So what did he do in 1982 that you guys just Just went in there and did it.
Well, you let him tell it. He'll say it really had nothing to do with him. He's just a great talent, but that's just a joke on him and everything. But really though, he's Wimp was a heck of a coach.
Right.
Had you well prepared. One thing I knew, if you played at the University of Alabama, you was going to be well prepared and understood the details, your assignment, and everything. So he's pretty good at that. But Wimp was a pretty good coach. Even though a lot of people may not know that, but if you look at his history and his record, he done pretty good in the SEC.
He's the winningest coach in Alabama history. I think he's got the 5 SEC tournament championships. I think he was voted coach of the decade in the SEC by like the Lexington World Leader or Herald Leader. All right, you get to the championship game. You're going to play Kentucky. Big surprise, playing Kentucky in their home arena. Any special pregame speech just for that particular? What was the game plan by Coach and you guys playing Kentucky in that championship game?
Well, I always playing against a powerhouse team like Kentucky. You kind of like just want to either stay close and not get the crap beat out of you.
I understand.
That is the truth. But in that game, they came to Alabama and beat us. And we played them okay at Rupp Arena earlier. We played them 2 times that season, but we got our confidence going, and like I said, we got hot at the right time. But we felt like we had good talent, and we had a good game plan. And we played real well up at Rupp Arena. It was one of the highlights of my career, going in there, stopping a 32-game win streak at Rupp Arena. It was one of the most unbelievable time in my life, a moment that I'll never forget. It was just incredible.
All right, so let's have a little more fun here. 46-46.
Yes.
You guys have the ball. Coach always says, I drew up a play for you, and he misses the shot. But thank goodness Eddie Phillips was there for the putback. Kind of walk me through that last play.
See, I'm a natural playmaker, and I always tell him, I said I call it a pass, but it really wasn't a pass. He did, one thing about him, he did clear out the side for me, and I went one-on-one. But Carl said the clock ticking down. I kind of short on him a little bit. And it ended up coming in short, but thank God Eddie was there, because he's a heck of a rebound, and it fell right in his hand. So that really was our assist in the pass.
No, I understand. Hey, I rewatched that a lot on YouTube, that game. So, but I know Coach always likes to give you a hard time about that. He likes to mess with you. All right, so you guys have the incredible win at the SEC tournament. You go to the NCAA tournament. You're a number 4 seed, I believe, in the East Regional, but the NCAA does you no favors, because not only in your first game you play St. John's in New York, which you win, but then by winning that game, now you have to play North Carolina in Raleigh, North Carolina. Walk me through the prep and what the thought was going against North Carolina, who eventually won the national championship that year.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that St. John game was an incredible game. It went back and forth. Chris Smotland, Billy Goodwin, all those guys, man. That was a tough battle at Nassau Coliseum in New York City. So they, got the home court advantage. But like I said, we was on a roll at the time. I think we was playing our best basketball, so we ended up, beating them. Then we got a chance, of course, to play the North Carolina team with Michael Jordan and Sam Perkins Word and those guys, which was a very classic game, and they got us by 5, but really enjoyed the moment. It was a good run for us, and it just was a great experience.
When I always look back at your '82 team with such fondness, because I've always considered that one of the greatest Alabama basketball teams I've ever seen. I mean, again, you win the SEC tournament in Rupp Arena, you give North Carolina everything they want, and then you watch them go win the national championship. What were you thinking when you saw Michael Jordan and North Carolina win the championship? You're thinking, oh, that could have been us.
Yeah, well, we go back, because Mike and I go back to high school. We was on the same high school All-American team, same college All-American team. So, I remember being on the bus one time, and he was going on about them winning the championship and everything.
Oh, he was rubbing it in.
Mike tend to rub some things in,
okay.
The original GOAT, but he was just saying, how they won the championship, and I never forget seeing the rebound away, or just a couple plays away. I thought we could have been going down that same road, as national championship. I'm not saying that we would have won it, but I believe that who came out of our bracket, I believe that they, had a great chance of winning. For North Carolina won it that year.
I wouldn't disagree at all. Okay, so we had a great season. A little disappointing that you went out in the Sweet 16 against North Carolina. You come back for your sophomore year. A lot of high expectations for that team because if I remember correctly, at one point you got up to number 5 in the AP poll. Not saying that the 83 team didn't do great things because there's a couple of things I really want to touch upon. And one of the things is, again, you had 2 really big non-conference wins, in my opinion, that year. The first one was you guys went out to California in a tournament and you just beat the tar out of Georgetown with Patrick Ewing. Talk to me about that game. It seemed like just everything was clicking that game.
Yeah, the Winston Tide Classic, I'll never forget it. We went on the West Coast. The West Coast was good to us. Whenever we would play on the West Coast, we seemed to come out a winner. But we ended up playing Southern Cal the first one and beat them pretty good and ended up getting Georgetown. And I think beating them by probably 15 or 20 points. I'm not sure the score, but we ended up beating my old good friend Patrick Ewing. Patrick Ewing also. Me and him go way back in high school. So, we got a lot of history here. Mike and Patrick and Chris Mullen. I actually played against all the guys that was really on the All-American team.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Yeah. All right. But like I said, I think Bobby Lee had a big game too against Patrick and that team too. Yeah. There was a lot of talent on that team. Big win against Georgetown. All right. The one I really want to get your recollection on, obviously, is the January 28th, 1983. Friday night, Pauley Pavilion. You're playing UCLA, which is the number 1 ranked team in the country, which is big in itself. But to me, there's even more emotional significance to this game. We all remember 2 days prior was the passing of Coach Bryant. Coach Sanderson has talked about the fact that obviously there was a moment when he didn't know if the team should even go out there and play. And he got the okay from Paul Bryant Jr. that his dad probably would want you guys to play. What was the mindset of the team with the day that Coach Bryant passed, and then you guys, were you thinking, are we going to go or are we not going to go?
Well, I never forget seeing Coach Bryant before he had, I knew he wasn't doing well at the time, but never forget Eric Richardson and I was walking down Memorial Coliseum, and I never forget he said a lot of words, but he wasn't a man of many words when he speak to, like, just say the public. Mm-hmm. I never forget he said, boys, I want y'all to go out there and represent. And that was the last time that I had heard from him. And we ended up, of course, he had passed away, but we ended up wearing the patches across our uniform. But I never forget seeing him, passing by him in the hallway at Memorial Coliseum right before we went out there. So it was very emotional. Mm-hmm. It was a huge game, a game that I'll never forget because of the importance and the emotional part of Coach Bryant passing away and just happened to be playing the number 1 team in the country, which was UCLA.
So what did Coach talk to you guys about before the game? I'm not saying, did he say, win this one for Coach Bryant, but what was his message to your team so you could stay focused in a moment that touched the entire Alabama nation across all players, all sports, everything because of Coach Bryant's passing?
Yeah, I think, in that moment, we was in the moment real well. I think that some things you can draw up and some things you can't. Mm-hmm. But I thought that was one of the times where we really played really well at the right time. And, it just happened to be the passing of Coach Bryant. But he prepared us. Like I said, playing against the UCLA team on national TV, you just you go in there not knowing what to expect. But I think because of all that had transpired and went down, we was really motivated, to try to do well because of Coach Bryant. He's such a legendary coach. And just going out there playing on national TV, I think it all clicked at the right time. And it really just turned into a classic moment that I'll never forget, just winning on national TV and playing against that, Ralph Jackson, Rocket Rod Foster, UCLA team, which was loaded at that time.
I know I was 13 at the time, and I remember when I was in school, they announced on the school intercom that Wednesday that Coach Bryant had passed. And then I knew the basketball team later, was still going to play at UCLA. And I don't know how it is for all Alabama fans who remember that time, but I remember for me that win you guys had was just, I don't know, I think that was something the Alabama nation needed. They needed something good to just grab a hold of. And I still view that as one of probably the greatest non-conference win in Alabama basketball history. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I feel it's very high on my list. It's epic because, I've had a lot of great accomplishments, but that's definitely in the top 3 of mine going out, beating the UCLA team along with Kentucky at the time, but definitely UCLA win was a high accomplishment for me, and I believe for our team and the state of Alabama at the time, that it really happened.
You and Bobby Lee had a good 1-2 punch that game. Bobby Lee had 23 points. You had 20 against UCLA. Okay, so you come back, SEC schedule. As I mentioned, at one point, your team climbed up to number 5 in the polls. Things then just, I don't know, didn't stay between the lines like maybe people thought. What do you remember about the SEC play that year? Do you remember, like, I don't know, was it the chemistry just didn't mesh at certain times, or what kind of happened? Because it's not that you had a bad season, but I know there were a lot of expectations piled on that team that year. So kind of, if you can share how things were during the SEC schedule that year.
Yeah, well, the conference, it was a tough conference. Like, for instance, we went out, and I think we were maybe 8-0. When we was out there,
Yeah.
come back into the SEC, and I think we lose like 5 in a row. But that was happening the whole year, where it was, where we were just beating up on each other. And so we actually got back to the championship game in the SEC because it was in my hometown in Birmingham. So it was very important for me to play well up in Birmingham and our team. But Georgia ended up getting us in the SEC championship that year. But I think it was just, a missed opportunity where the expectation was really high. But you never know in the NCAA tournament, and when you're playing, the draw you may get, anything can happen. Momentum is something else, and I believe if you start playing right at the right time, I think it's very important. And we seem to be up and down that whole year because, we missed a lot of key people, like the rebounding of my freshman year with Eddie and Lockett and all those guys. We didn't have our second year, and I think that to me, I think that was a big part of the rebounding part.
Yeah, that's right. As far as the SEC tournament, you did rebound like always because Coach Sanderson it was always like Sanderson Sunday. You could always count on an Alabama team at least playing on Sunday. So you got to the SEC tournament. You made a run. You got to Georgia. But if I remember correctly, we had to watch Georgia then turn around and go to the Final Four. That was their Final Four year. And they did it without Dominique Wilkins. Dominique wasn't even on the team. He had left the year before. After the SEC tournament, NCAA, you get another invitation. Lamar, matchup against Lamar. What do you think kind of happened there? Because Alabama was a number 6 seed, I believe, in the Midwest Regional, and you went to Houston. I don't know what mindset. What do you think it was? Just took Lamar maybe too lightly? I don't know on that NCAA game.
Yeah, I think I think in the NCAA you respect everybody, but I believe that you can't underestimate, the tournament. They call it March Madness for a reason.
Yep.
Anybody can be beat. And Lamar they played well. They came and we got down, and once you get down, start pressing and just kind of like, not playing at your best. I think that they play. I ain't gonna say they played over the head, but they played well that night. And they actually beat us maybe about 20, if I'm not mistaken. They beat us pretty good. But it was just one of those games where the rhythm was not there, and I think we didn't play well that night. And Lamar did. Give all credit to them.
So now I want to ask you a question. So I hope you don't get mad at me. So after your sophomore season, we know, again, you're one of the greatest point guards that's ever played at the University of Alabama. When did you start thinking that, hey, maybe I want to leave and go to the NBA? When did that enter your mind?
Well, from a little kid, I always told my mom, I said, "Mom, one day I want to buy you a home," and it always been in my mind. But I think that after they're saying when you have an opportunity to go in the top 15 in the draft,
and you did.
Yeah,
you're 13.
I did. I went number 13, but I started giving it thought. Then hindsight, I think I wish I would have waited one more year. But
one more? Okay.
I didn't. But that's when I decided to turn pro and everything. But I ended up going and going a lottery 13 pick and everything. But I always wanted to do something good for my mom at the time, and I was from a big family from Fountain Hike in Birmingham. So that's one of the things I always wanted to do was bless her, and to help her out. That was my goal and everything.
So now, did you start thinking about it like immediately after the Lamar game? Is that when you started thinking about it?
No, it was just a tough decision at the time. I finished the year, and then once I finished the year, I just evaluated and just figured like it was just a good time for me to go because my name was coming up high. I had put together 2 good years and everything, so having Isaiah Thomas and Magic Johnson, like I remember them leaving out their sophomore year.
Yep.
So, you're thinking in the back of your mind, hey, it's a good time. You played well. I made a high school All-American. I made college All-American. So, it just seemed like a good time to leave out.
How difficult was the conversation with Coach when you had to tell him, Coach, I'm going to go ahead and go pro?
Yeah, I never forget. I could see the disappointment. It wasn't easy.
Right.
It wasn't easy for the state of Alabama because I think Alabama fans are some of the greatest fans. I couldn't have played for better fans. Still to this day, I'm beloved, and that's one thing. It was just a real tough decision. I never forget going in and talking to Coach. Everything. One thing he never did was he never said anything against it and everything. He knew it was my decision and everything, and that's that's what it basically came down to. He didn't try to discourage me or anything like that, but he just making sure that was what I wanted to do.
All right, so NBA career. So you had kind of you got drafted by one team, but ended up playing for another team. So if I remember correctly, you went 13th overall, but you got picked by not the Sacramento Kings, the Kansas City Kings, and then what? Like an hour or two later, they trade your rights to the Chicago Bulls. So what were you thinking there when you talked? Did you talk to Kansas City and did they tell you, hey, we're going to draft you and trade you? What happened there?
Well, it wasn't an hour later because it was maybe a couple minutes.
Oh, okay. A couple minutes later, they went ahead and traded the rights. Okay.
Well, when they said the Kansas City Kings, then I'm elated to get drafted first of all.
Absolutely.
And then before I know it, my agent, called because I didn't go to New York City at the time, but called and told me I was not going to stay in Kansas City. I was now going to Chicago and everything. But at that time you're just excited to be drafted, man. You didn't reach a childhood dream, a childhood goal, of being one in what are the chances of being one in a million people, to get drafted in the NBA. So, I can explain and put into words, how just excited I was to be able to get an opportunity to play in the NBA at such a young age.
So I've got to ask the obvious question. So how big a difference from college SEC basketball to professional basketball?
It was a big difference. One thing I could do was play basketball. I don't think that was most of the problem. I think that there was more the problem of on off the court. Just dealing with just the pressures of having to take care of yourself and just deal with just the things of life. But you can be ready on the court, but off the court, I think playing professional ball is more than just basketball. Mental, physically, and spiritually. It takes a lot. It can take a toll. And like I said, as a sophomore, I can look back over my life and say maybe one more year would have probably really helped me out, knowing that I didn't know at the time that the Olympics were coming up.
Oh,
and
okay.
That's another thing, as I look hindsight. When I look back, hindsight,
You could have
something else.
for the '84
Yes.
Olympic. Yeah.
Yes. So, that those were things that, when I look back, I was like, wow, if I'd have waited one more year, I could have easily been with, just say, playing with Mike on the Olympic team. And
Coached by Bobby Knight.
Oh, I mean.
Yeah. You would have been coached by Coach Knight. Yeah.
Well, they say Welker and Coach Knight similar, but I don't think so. They, real good fundamental coaches, but and hard no play. But I was a good point guard, so I
I would have loved to see the '84 Olympic team with you and Michael Jordan in the backcourt. Oh my gosh!
It was a preview of what was coming in the pros. I threw him his first 3 assists, first 3 dunks. All the first. So when they call him to go, they say, "Who do you think the GOAT is?" I'm like, it's a no-brainer in my situation because I just had a great opportunity to play with one of the greatest players that ever played this game.
So. That's right. So in the '83 draft, so your rookie year, Michael was still he stayed one more year at North Carolina. That first full 82 game season that you had in the pros, and obviously then Chicago was not a good team. How tough was it losing for a competitor? Because no one likes to lose.
Yeah. I have never had experienced it. Like in, let's say, from the PAT program, the youth program, you never lost 3-4 games in a row.
Right.
But up there in the pros, that's a tough league. That's a grown man league, and things change real quickly up there. And the ups and down part, going through what they call the hitting the wall and a lot of things like that. You found out pretty quickly that man, this is pretty tough. And it was was a heck of an experience. Made me grow up quick.
So then you play a second year with the Bulls, and like you said, they draft Michael Jordan. So they get the luck of the draw that the Portland takes Sam Bowie and they don't take Michael Jordan. Um, and you said you already knew Mike because you guys knew him from high school, and then you played against him. So he teased you a little bit about that Sweet 16 game his freshman year or his rookie year with the Bulls.
Yeah, he do. I mean, Mike kind of jokes there anyway.
Yeah.
I always remember I've said it a couple times in my interviews that he was just going on about how many points he scored. And he was like, I had 20. I said, wait, hold on, Mike. I don't think you had 20. I said more like maybe 11 or 12. I said because the guy I played with, Wim Sanderson, we played defense down
Yep.
at the end, so. I always kind of let it know, but he always kind of like been a jokester and everything. And everybody on the bus like, ooh, letting him know. But it was a good time, and like that's just the way his personality is and everything. And it's all good. We go way back, like I said, from high school to college. Man, it was definitely a pleasure. The amount of years to get a chance to play with him. I think early no one knew who was going to rise to the top at the time, and he definitely rising up.
So I know your NBA career stretched like at least 10 years. You had a lot of teams in there. Seems like, again, now that since you live in Maryland, you took a liking to the Washington area. Talk to me about your time with the Bullets. What did you like about the Bullets?
Yeah, first of all,
and not the Wizards.
Washington
Washington Bullets back then.
I mean, getting another opportunity to get another year in. I ended up getting 10 years in, so to me that was a career.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
So I ended up playing, but also too, just a lot of great things came out of it. I met my wife there. I still stay in the area now. Work with Monumental Sports a little bit with the retired players, alumni there, and just getting an opportunity to do that. But that year, Moses Malone and Jeff Malone, Michael Adams, Manute Bol, and the '86 team.
A lot of big time players came through the Bulls.
Yeah, we have a pretty good team. Got in the playoff again that year, but I love playing with the Bullets. Actually, it's my home where I make my where I live at now.
So let me ask this: since you went through the process and you turned pro early after a sophomore, what advice do you give all these young one and done kids now? What do they need to be prepared for life in the NBA?
Sure, I think staying around people that are grounded and just have a sound voice in their life. One, if I could say anything to them, that's a huge decision. Definitely being around someone that knows basketball and has an influence in your life, because one decision can decide what level or how many years or whether or not you be a Hall of Famer or whatever based on that decision. But that's one thing I would tell most of the young players that are coming out now, that make sure they evaluate and make sure they ponder the decision before they make it, because it can definitely determine how your career turn out.
So while you're playing in the NBA, and I know it's a 82 game schedule, it's a grind. Did you still have time every now and then to peek back to see what your old school was doing during SEC play?
Oh yeah, I'm a diehard Alabama.
Okay, fan. I was just curious if you were able to try to keep up and see what's going on.
Yeah, it's in my gut feeling. Always one thing I always have kept: football. Basketball. It doesn't matter. Track and field. It could be badminton.
No, I understand.
I'm just Alabama boy at heart, and I always have loved the state of Alabama because it's very good to me. And the University of Alabama was very good to me, and I just had a great time there. I have no regrets on going to the University of Alabama. If I had to do it again, I would go to the University of Alabama.
So let me ask you this then, as a former player, as someone who grew up in this state, it seemed like, and even for my lifetime, it just seemed like Alabama basketball, wow, a great program, great regular season wins, SEC tournaments, SEC championships, but the Sweet 16 just stopped. Not allowed past that. For whatever reason, bad luck, bad seeding, bad draw, whatever. If any of those teams, like your team in 82 or Coach Sanderson's team in 86 or 87 or 90, if any one of those teams had been able to break through, what do you think the legacy of Alabama basketball and Coach Sanderson would have been then? from a national level. We know regionally how good Alabama basketball is.
Yeah, I just think that we've been up there with some of the greats. 'Cause you used the right word, breakthrough. A breakthrough is basically saying, you get the results of winning and getting to the Final Four. I never forget just being on my sofa, just praying, that Coach Oates would in the team. Because what are the chances that they would be playing 40 plus years later, North Carolina again,
Yep.
in the kind of same situation and everything? But this time, they got the breakthrough. And
how much enjoyment did you get out of that game this past season?
Well, I end up going out to the Final Four because I believe that it's more to come. The way Coach O and the guys are playing. Hopefully, that comes to be true. But I ended up going out to the Final Four because it was that exciting to me and just so overdue because just the type of talent that have come through the state. And just the program. I don't think a lot of people really realize the type of talent that have come through Alabama program. We could have got to just say, you remember when Florida did it and Las Vegas did it. I think if Coach Oates can put together, a nice streak and win it, I believe that, it really put it on the map. And that's what I'm hoping and praying that really, come through.
So we were talking off camera earlier, too, about your trip to Phoenix for the Final Four. So was it almost cathartic seeing all the former players and coaches all there together to come out and witness history there in Glendale?
The reason why I thought I was so great because I think most people were genuinely happy for the program. Former players and just that felt the relief. We made it.
I know.
I'm 61 now, but it was like, yeah, we made it. I know the young generation don't really realize. Spokesman and all these guys, what they done, but they really played well at the right time and got that breakthrough in order to put Alabama basketball on the map. We know football, we know what the program means there, but to have the basketball program, end up making it to the Final Four, I just thought it was a huge breakthrough for Coach Oates and just the Alabama program. I thought it was big.
I was, when Alabama. When they beat North Carolina to go to the Elite Eight and they set up the rematch with Clemson to punch their ticket to the Final Four, when they finally did it, I was still kind of in a state of shock. I thought I was going to be emotional because I'd waited my whole life to see it, but the emotions didn't hit me. I was just still thinking, like, did this really happen? Did it really happen? And then as I thought about it, on the X account that we do, I showed you about Tide Hoops history. One of the things I wanted to mention was I wanted to pay tribute to 1976. Which to me was probably the second best team in all of the country that lost to Bobby Knight, to your team in '82, to the '86 team that had terrible seeding and had to play Kentucky for the fourth time in the Sweet 16, to the '87 team that swept the SEC tournament title in regular season and got upset by Providence. Didn't see that one coming. To the '90 team with Robert Horry and that team that got a bad seeding and got sent out west, to Coach Gottfried's 2004 team, right? And then, of course, the Coach Oates' 21 team, which I thought was going to make it. And then I thought for sure the 23 team was going to make it. I really thought after the 23 team, I was fortunate enough to go to Louisville in 23. And when they lost to San Diego State, I was like, okay, this team's not going to do it. I don't know if I'm ever going to see it. But here we are a year later, and they do it. Are you part of – I've talked to other former players. A lot of them are involved in group text during when games are going on. Are you part of a group text when Alabama basketball is playing in the NCAA tournament or anything like that? Or how do you communicate with some of your former players when all this is going on?
Yeah, most people, you had to be from here to really realize the rich history of it. I think if you do, then you understand that it ain't something you fake or make up. It's really from the gut.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when we say when you're in the airport, RTR, roll tide, roll, baby. When you see that just go around the world, and I believe that most people are genuinely happy for the program because you can use a better word, breakthrough. And I believe that was a huge breakthrough. I'm from Birmingham. The pipeline in Birmingham was incredible, but the state of Alabama and all the players that have come through, congratulations to, Coach Oates, and just all the players, that played, and played a part. I think that we helped, get them there. So now he's taking it. He's got the torch, and hopefully he take this on to another level. One thing I like about him is that I never forget. You meet him and everything. Like it was great getting to, Sweet 16, and we realized there's a football school, but he said, "I'm trying to go and win it." And I just,
You like that? Okay.
I love that about him. I was just thinking in my mind. I'm like, man, if I had somebody who would tell me that, it's like. But that's one thing I liked about him. Was that his faith and his attitude. He had the right mindset that he was going to win it, and that's the first thing I thought about when I seen it. Alabama at the Final Four was that, hey, we finally made it.
So, what would a 19-year-old Ennis Whatley now do in a Coach Oates system?
I probably.
How much fun do you think that would be?
I probably has 40 assists in the Coach Oates system, but I think that just it's a change your attitude, change your life. And I think the change of just the mindset, the culture. I think he's got a good culture here. I think that he's, the way he's going, he's really, he's got something going good. He's got players buying into what he's doing. I played in the '80s, so a natural point guard and playmaker throwing inside out, of course, was the thing. But now, that's why I said the mindset is totally different, and I think that it's working because nobody else was able to get to the Final Four, and he did. so congratulations, Coach. Roll Tide, roll.
Well, we talked about the success Alabama basketball had in the '70s and '80s and '90s, and again, it's because there was about a 25-year period where this state had unbelievable talent, great players coming through here, and they helped fuel that. Now, I think maybe the overall talent level of the state, I mean, you have good years, bad years, but there was such a consistency for so long that every year the kids coming out were just fantastic. We joked about, when I asked you what could a 19-year-old Ennis Whatley do in Coach Oates' system, what do you like when you watch the team now, this renaissance of Alabama basketball, these last 4 years? What did you enjoy the most about watching these teams?
I see. That's one thing I think with Wimp don't get enough credit, because you probably wouldn't know him. His little joke on the inside was like, I give you the ball to clear out type thing. But I think the freedom, difference between liberty and freedom. I think the freedom that he gives them to express themselves at having confidence and encourage them to shoot the three. I believe it starts with the belief, and I believe one thing he have brought to the program is that he believes, and I think you can see it extending to the players. So I believe that that's one attribute that he have really brought to the program, the buy-in part, to where if you can have a great delivery and you can get the players to buy in, I believe that's something and it shows. Yeah.
So you brought up something in our earlier conversation about the fan base, and I've always felt, and I believe this firmly, that there has always been a very passionate core of Alabama basketball fans. Now, look, I've never met an Alabama basketball fan that didn't like Alabama football. I met plenty of Alabama football fans that probably was like, basketball's okay, whatever. But for the ones who love basketball, they really love basketball. Did you feel that your 2 years in Alabama in the 81, 82, 82, 83?
Can I tell you a little deeper than that? I sold Cokes at the Legion Field when they lost football.
Oh, okay. All right.
At Legion Field.
Yeah.
When they lost to Notre Dame, and we all went home and cried.
That was 1980. I remember that game. Yeah.
With I don't know if it was Parcelli or the other guy who was coaching at the time, but I never forget. I didn't sell many Cokes because I was that deep I was in elementary school. But I think for all sports, like I said, if you only know this if you're from here.
That's right.
They say Alabama and Auburn. I said, you don't understand when you get past the Mason-Dixon line. Like, it's only two schools, like Alabama and then there's Auburn. But
no, it's just one school. It's Alabama. It's just Alabama. Sorry.
I stand corrected on that.
No, I know.
But it's good. But when you know deep down, you're really happy. My whole family, part of my family, they got mixed emotions, but for the most part, most of my team, not just because I played there, I think because being from the state of Alabama and being from Birmingham, we truly root for Alabama.
So you did bring up a good point, and I will give Auburn credit. And I will say this, and I want your opinion on this as a player. I'm going to assume, because I remember during the 80s, those Alabama-Auburn games were wars. I mean, two programs had there was about a 5 or 6 year period where the talent on both teams was phenomenal, and it's just a slugfest. And then, these last 10 years prior to these last four, it kind of went away, and it lost some of the. Well, it wasn't a meaningful game anymore. I mean, it was to the fan base, but from a significance of the SEC or the national level, it didn't get much. But these last 4 years, Coach Oates and Coach Pearl, they brought everything back. To me, it's Coach Sanderson, Coach Smith 2.0, but maybe even turned up a little bit higher. Now, obviously, don't like losing to Auburn, but do you appreciate the fact that Auburn is relevant too, and those games matter so much, not just at the state level, not just at the SEC level. This year, they're projecting Alabama and Auburn both to be preseason top 10 teams.
But I think you can't rise to the occasion. You can't elevate if you don't have a rivalry. And so I think that is good for basketball. Coach Sonny Smith, coach, when I was there, I hear Charles Barkley all the time talking about.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I always say, just go back and look at the record. The record don't lie. So, but I think it's good for basketball. I think it's good for recruiting. I think it's good to have a rivalry, and that's one thing that I noticed when we played. And then we don't even talk about UAB, but UAB,
they were good in the '80s too. Yes.
At one time,
yes.
South Alabama. At one point, I think we may have had 4 teams, if I'm not mistaken, in the early '80s that was in. So I think it's good for the state. That's why I brought up Auburn name. I think it's good, even though it's a rivalry. I think it's just good for this sport.
And you know what, you brought up a very valid point because I grew up when you were playing, which is the early '80s. Then I followed it all the way up. But you're right, in the mid '80s. And I always consider that for this state, the golden years for this state, because Alabama was relevant, Auburn was relevant, UAB was relevant, and like you said, even South Alabama had good teams too. And that was just a glorious time for basketball fans. And then it kind of went away. Well, we've got it back now. As you from Maryland, how many games do you get to keep up with and watch during the season these last couple of years?
Oh, they know from Bible study on down the line.
Oh, okay.
When Alabama plays, it's over with. I got my road tied on, but I'm a true fan,
right?
And diehard fan. But University of Maryland is one thing, but I always tell them ain't nothing like road tied. And I think they probably know that now, but they kind of like have adopted me up there being from the state of Alabama. But it's just huge because whenever they play, it's on your heart, and whenever it's that time, you're just excited. Football, basketball, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
You gonna be able to come to any games this year, maybe?
I try to get back often. I try to catch either the LSU or one of the huge games in football. But in basketball, I've come back and spoke to the team for Coach Oates.
Okay.
Gotten a chance to just share just good encouraging words to them. I really do.
The times that you spoke to Coach Oates' team, did the players have any specific questions for you? Like, what's it like playing in Alabama? What's the NBA like?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, a lot of time, Coach Oates, he would allow me to come out and just share my testimony. I do have a career of 10 years, and I am part of the pipeline that helped build it. So I just would give them principles. Like I said, change your attitude, change your mind, and they have changed their attitude. And it really showing. So it's just little things I think you pass on down the line. And when they look up on the wall and see you in the Alabama Hall of Fame, I actually really, was being introduced to the Hall of Fame, and then coming back and speaking to, this guy, letting you know that you can do this also. I just think it's just good to have former players come back and just pass it on to the next generation.
What could Ennis Whatley coming out of high school now do in this era of NIL, open transfer portal, all this madness? Well, what do you think about all this with the new age of? Here's the one thing. There's the one thing that I do miss, and this is my grumpy old man get off my lawn moment. But I do miss the fact that now you don't have players who you can watch develop in the program when they come as freshmen. I always loved the fact that you got to know and feel like you knew the players. You got to watch them grow, because most of the time they would stay minimum 3 years, most of the time 4 years. Sometimes if they redshirt, you get them 5 years. But that's not the norm nowadays. And then now it's truly roster turnover every year. How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't really understand this. I don't even know the right name or term for it, but whatever's going on, you kind of like, it's because of the fact that, once you have a home base and you get to know a player, I think, you get a chance to follow them and everything. But tradition-wise, wherever it's going, I just hope to be able to maintain, because, a player may be at this school 1 minute, and then the next minute there's another school, and that's something we weren't used to. Either you had to sit out a whole year or something. You just couldn't just go to another school. So it's interesting to see the way the culture is going nowadays. I think it's something new, and you have to get used to it because even for instance up in Maryland, they played in the ACC. Now they playing in the Big Ten. And now here at Alabama, you just say you get to Oklahoma or Texas to come in the SEC. So, to get used to all that, I'm hoping that it's good for the game. But it's taking some getting used to it because traditionally you used to. I always tell people I'm from the SEC and I played in the SEC. And most guys will say I played in the ACC. Buck Williams was a good friend of mine. The SEC wouldn't have did anything against the SEC. So we go way back because those conferences matter back then. So it'll be interesting to see how it turn out and with this new way of doing things. Yeah.
Would Ennis Whatley back in the 80s, would you have wanted to play 1 year at Alabama, then transfer 1 year at Auburn, then transfer 1 year to UAB, and then finish your senior season at Tennessee? That just seems strange, but that's what they can do now.
Yeah, like I said, you kind of have to have a balance because we can be stuck in our own mind, which you have to be able to evolve and that part right there because it's a new culture, it's a new day and time. The contracts they have in the pros, for instance. I just if I could have came out like maybe 5 extra years, maybe 10 extra years later, then it's something different. But I'm happy for them. But just a new culture. I think we have to kind of like be a little patient with them and kind of see where it's going because the way it's headed, man, is incredible. With all the technology, media, and all those things. I just think there's just another level.
Well, Ennis, I cannot thank you enough for sitting down. The hour has flown by. I can't thank you enough for this. This has been something I've been looking forward to since we connected and we were exchanging a few text messages. Like I said, you still are my favorite player. You were my favorite player growing up. Here you are. I get to meet you. I'm not going to accept the fact that we're as old as we are. So in my mind, I'm 12. Sure. You're like 19. So yes. Can we do that?
That's cool.
Okay. So we'll forever be 12 and 19 the way I picture things in my mind. And again, please, whenever you come back for a game, let me know. I live here in Tuscaloosa. I'd love to run into you again and like to maybe do this again next year and the year after, as long as you'd be willing to come sit down and do an interview with us. I really appreciate that.
Well, this hope is the start of a great relationship. So I'm looking forward to. Like I said, I've been doing it with Coach and just a few of the other class. So it's definitely was great meeting you, and I enjoyed it too and everything. So I feel like it was in God's plan for me to get here. We ended up making it happen and everything. So I'm glad I did. I'm glad I had the opportunity to come back home because I'm from Alabama and I love Alabama and that's mainly Birmingham. But it's good to come back to Tuscaloosa with the school there because they always have a special place in my heart.
And for everyone, I'm going to wish Ennis a early happy birthday. He has a birthday coming up here really soon, and also you and Coach Sanderson both have a birthday here coming up soon. So happy birthday!
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Mike. Enjoy it.
Thank you, Ennis. Thank you.